Hi guys, a general update video. We are in the middle of rain season, and even though it doesn't look like that here now, it's completely blue sky, not cloud, just a little bit over there. But today's going to be awesome production. But that's how the rain season is in Thailand. The rain normally, at least in the central areas, comes in the afternoon and most often late in the afternoon. And so in daytime it's actually quite often that it's a lot of sun like this. In the rain season, obviously, when you have a hybrid system, you're gonna have sometimes some alarms going on because the grid really can be quite bad in the countryside, and that's when systems get alarms. And I just want to mention that again, like if you have rainstorms and bad grid, and normally alarms in hybrid systems, at least the alpha systems that are properly installed, like our systems, normally alarms are about bad stuff going on the grid. And if those bad things can be bad volt, either low or high, or frequency problems, or just unreliable, just very bad electricity coming in, the solar system doesn't want to use it, So that's when, and if those fluctuations are really fast, the best is always just to turn off the supply from outside and go to UPS mode. Obviously with hybrid systems, when you turn off the main supply, you go to UPS mode. That's what happens automatically. So there's nothing else you have to do. You just turn off the main, everything else will be automatic. And you can even do it before you get any alarms, because you just look at the weather like I've described in the early videos. But you can also do it if there already is a bad supply coming in. You just turn off the main, and that's much better. I mean, it's not the solar system that's causing these things. It's the bad grid. If you didn't have the solar, you wouldn't see the alarms. That's true. Instead, you would get destroyed appliances, So that's the good thing, that when you have a solar, you can actually see that something is going on with the grid that is bad because the solar system is having problems. So then just turn off the main, wait a little bit, turn the main back on, and then the solar system will be working normally because the grid has normalized. And that's how you protect your house, your appliances, and make the solar system work the best. And also you have power all the time because you're on the UPS while the problems on the grid is fixed. So just want to mention that now that we are in the rain season, because these kind of problems are quite not normal, but they happen more often now compared to other times. What's going on with the company? Right now we have one team in Sham finishing up that house, where we're also going to have the off-grid solar system, that big project. And we have a team in Suphanburi working on a system, and a big system where we are changing the UPS. And that's the situation a lot now. We have several teams out, and right now, today, I'm doing office work, doing quotes, talking to customers. So that's how it is as the operation is expanding. I mean, we are not trying to become a corporation, not at all, but we do want several teams, and we have to have working habits so that we can work efficiently with several teams. And that means that I have to more often than before work in the office and not be on site. So that's part of what we are doing, is getting the best, most experienced guys. They have to be able to manage the teams most of the time on their own. Of course, if something happens, I can easily go. It's no problem, but they have to learn to work more independently, and that's what they are doing, and it's going great that way. And also, you see here, we have built a new motorcycle cover. So because obviously when we have more workers, they often leave their motorcycles here when they are out working. So we needed to reorganize. So this whole gate used to be back there. Now it's moved here to give room for this roof. So it creates a lot of more space. Back there, where the white car is now, there's going to be a new big carport where we can park 3 cars and also even have equipment. So that's what we are doing. Obviously, we have to do that in between jobs. And now we have a lot of orders. So it will be sometimes when no work will be happening, like right now. We don't have anybody to do this, but that's okay. That's how it is. It has to be done when we have time. So here is all the steel for the carport. It's going to be very big, very high, and we're also going to put more solar panels on it because we're just using a lot of electricity. That's the office for the guys that you see in the background there, where the AC is. And in there we have 2 air conditions, and we're just using a lot more because we're more people, so we need more panels. And fortunately, that system that we have, it can take 8-9 more panels. We have 1 string that we can put on, so that's really good. And then what I wanted to talk about specifically today is pricing. Get so many questions about pricing, so I thought I would take one video where I really go through everything and explain why it is this way and why I do it the way I do it. So let's start on the cheapest, absolutely cheapest that we can do. That's what we call a 5 kilowatt that's not oversized, with the most budget-friendly inverter, which is a TMDA. Which has integrated export control, so you don't need any external meter, so you save money there too. That will be around 170,000. And the panels are good. The panels are the Ryzen panels. We don't change the panels on the cheaper systems. We only change the inverter, and we don't change the installation. Everything is the same with breakers and everything. But we changed the number of panels, so that would only be 12 panels. But even though I'm saying 170, it doesn't mean it's going to be that in all cases, because, distance is different, roofs are different. But it's a guideline, 170, 175, something like that. And obviously it has to be adjusted for prices of what we are getting right now, like for equipment. So... But that's the cheapest we are at. And then up from there we have the 5 kilowatt SunGrow systems with or without oversizing, and that's starting at about 200,000. Little bit less, maybe like 195 if you go with 12. I'm trying to think as I'm talking because the configurations we can do are very flexible. Now it's going to be around 200. And then you can go, that would be with 12 panels. And then it goes, of course, up to 14 panels is a normal configuration we do. Can even do 16. But as you add more panels, and that's actually with all systems, the more panels that you add, the less value will each panel have. So to take an example, on a 5 kilowatt inverter, if it has the ability to put out 5,000 watts AC, if you put on 6,000 watts, let's say 14 panels, and then you add 2 more, the value of those last 2 will be less than the first 2. The reason is because the system already has all those panels and it's rated at 5,000 watts. So those last 2 panels will sometimes not get you will not see the full effect of it. To give an example of a situation where the last 2 panels will not work at the same level as the others, or actually the way it is that all the panels will work just a little bit, just give out less energy. That's when you have full sunshine and you have perfect conditions, you're going to go over the 5,000 wattage, and then that extra energy that would have been available, you can't output it. because the maximum is 5,000 watt. The benefit of having more than 5,000, I've explained that in separate videos, is that you will reach 5,000 much faster in the morning and retain it much longer in the afternoon. So that's the benefit. But that's why also we never oversize to the maximum of the inverter's capability. That's very rare that we do that, just because those last panels you will get less value from them, you know. But when you start oversizing, those first panels, when you do the oversizing, will have very good value. So that's why we always oversize to give the best value for money, but we don't oversize to the max, because then the value goes down. But of course, the lower the price is for panels, the more you can oversize and still have good value for money. So that's all about the price of equipment too. So if you're interested more in that topic, please take a look at other videos that we have specifically about oversizing. But in going back to pricing, when I talk with the customers, obviously we talk about what is the specific configuration that's good for specific customer. So that's why the most normal configuration for 5 kilowatt is 14 panels, because you get a nice middle road of good oversizing but not too crazy. So that's a nice combo there. So that's the Sungrow, which is sort of that's the high quality variant of the 5 kilowatt systems that we have without batteries. All we have talked about so far is without batteries. Let's move on to batteries. And then the cheapest is the 350,000 system. That only has a 5 kilowatt hour battery, but it's very high quality and LFP, so it's very safe. So it's a nice system for those that have their main usage in daytime. Let's say you have a pool and you're able to switch a lot of electrical usage to daytime, like washing clothes and stuff like that. And maybe in nighttime you don't use that much air conditioning. That's a great spot, that system for you. The reason is because the battery will give enough power to power cut, so you can have many things when you have a power cut. But if you have major nighttime use, that system is not recommended, and you should go for the battery systems with bigger batteries. And then the next step up is the 450,000 Alpha ESS. That's with 14 panels. Of course, it's approximate prices as always, because of factors I've already discussed. But that's that's a typical price, 450. That's the Alpha Smile 5 G3 with 14 panels. And then you can add up to 22 panels on that system. That will give you very nice energy in the night. For some it will not be enough to have 10 kilowatt hours. And then you just add another one. Many do that, many customers do that. And with 20 kilowatt hours, most people in residential houses will then have enough energy for most of the night. But the system don't need to cover the whole night to be functioning 100%. So that's just important to remember. That's why on-grid systems are cheaper than off-grid systems, because you just support the amount of nighttime use that you want. You don't have to cover the whole thing. In off-grid you have to cover everything, obviously, because there's no option. You can never get electricity from the grid. So that's one of the differences there between those kind of systems. So Alpha system with 22 panels, that's maxed out, giving you almost 10 kilowatt peak on the roof in energy. That's going to run you a little bit more than 500,000. And then if we look at three-phase, that's a completely different system, much more expensive, because three-phase hybrid inverters, it's like having 3 inverters inside the inverter. So it's actually 6 inverters in there, 3 for the on-grid when the grid is up, and 3 for the off-grid when there's a power cut for the UPS. So that's why three-phase systems are so much more expensive. So three-phase alpha with 28 panels starting around 600,000. So, but three-phase systems, we also see more variations just because the systems are bigger. So you can even install that with 20 panels if you want. Let's say you have three-phase, but you don't use really that much electricity. You can install that with 20 panels or even less. But most will put 28 because that's a nice middle ground. It will give what the system is able to produce. Actually, it can go even higher, but it's a nice middle way there with 28 panels. But the system can take up to 36 panels, so there's that. So that's why the configuration variation, it's quite big. Some systems have this, some systems have that. So that's why solar is really a tailor-made product if you do it properly. Solar is not like a packaged, sell the same product to everyone. That's a very stupid way of doing solar, in my opinion, because the variation is enormous. People's needs are enormous. People's houses are very, very different. Panels are different. Different quality inverters have different functions. All these things, Some houses you can't use solar because the supply is horrible. So then, if you just have a package deal that you order from like an online shop, it's not going to be good. It's going to be terrible. And that we see it so much, it's ridiculous how many people waste hundreds of thousands on systems that they can't use because of different reasons. With battery systems, one of the biggest problems we see is that companies install and they just put the whole house on the UPS, which never works on big houses. So the systems are set up to fail. And the customers, of course, get angry, the installers disappear, and then we get the phone call, And then there's not much we can do because we can't repair the systems because they are wrong in the first place on every level. So, and let's talk about at the end the big systems that are without batteries. Then you can do, for example, 10 kilowatt with 28 panels. That's normally three phase. You can do that single phase too. Then you have to combine 2 5 kilowatt inverters, but the price is anyway gonna end up a little bit over 300, like 320, 330, around there. And that would be the same panels, same protection. It's just a lot cheaper than the battery systems, just because so many things are not there. Like you have no ATS, you have no UPS panel, installation is simpler, less wires, the inverter is cheaper. So it's not only that the battery is more expensive, the whole system is expensive, all the parts. What more can we say about pricing? I mean, I'm trying to find, obviously, the sweet spot where the company can develop and invest, and also we can give good value and be competitive. And that's we are on. If you compare to all offerings, we are on the higher side in price, absolutely. But that's what we need to be if we're going to offer the kind of after sales that we do. We can't sell much cheaper than what we do if we're going to be, returning calls and giving proper support to everybody. And nobody ever waits long time to hear back, and we find solutions. And doesn't mean that if you have a problem that you're going to be back up and running the next day. Depends on the problem. Most problems, yes, because most problems are from the grid. You just wait and then the problem is resolved. But we always have to start online, remote solving, and then take the troubleshooting in the correct order. But we always solve it. There's never been a case where... there was one case where the grid was so bad that we had to give up. And then, then the customer got his money back, so we just The grid was so bad that we couldn't have. We tried 3 inverters; they all broke down, like completely destroyed. So that can happen, but now we do the service so good that we normally are able to avoid those situations. But there can be situations where the PA, the supply is just horrendous, and then. But like I said, normally we are able to pick that up on the survey, and then of course you can go with an off-grid system. That's possible, but I can tell you, most companies, they will never have that survey part of the work done properly. Some customer, I'm not saying no companies do it properly, but certainly most companies don't. And that's like, especially if you're in the countryside, if a company doesn't take that seriously. And there are ways to do that remotely. I've done that many times, so that we know the exact specifications of the supply and measure it and everything. I send out meters that are easy to use, stuff like that, work with the customer so we can get as much information in place as fast as we can. So I think that's it for now. There's even a lot more information that can be said about pricing. Of course, there's plenty of configurations that I've not talked about, like hybrid coupling when you have 20 kilowatt on 3-phase, or even 15 kilowatt on single phase with combined systems, stuff like that. But I think in what we have gone through gives a nice overview, a nice explanation of why we are doing what we are doing. Thank you.